I think the reset is a place that is like a cracking open for sure. For me, it was very much that way. And there's a lot at the reset that gave me the feeling of what was possible in my life. And that was in a very contained and structured and beautiful environment to have that.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I'm joined today with an amazing man, Mr. Mark Smith, another amazing man, Mr. Derek Drake, and I am your host, Mr. Tim Matthews. So, guys, here we are after Tattoo, the Alpha Rising.
Yeah.
And transparently, the way we like to roll on this show is we tend to rock up and hit record and go for it. And Mr. Drake, a moment ago, you said what we're going to talk about. And my response to you was, I'm going to ask you, what is hot for you right now, considering you've just been through Tattoo? What is it that's coming up inside of you that you want to talk about?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I think one of the biggest things that came up for me this last week in Tattoo was the impact on myself and the impact on others. The propensity I have had and carried of taking responsibility for other people's happiness. It's definitely a topic I have a lot of work to do. And some time with both of you, I think would be a good topic for us to talk about today.
I can certainly relate. What about you, Mr. Smith? Can you relate?
Absolutely. Having a family, having children, grandchildren, a property, staff, taking responsibility for others is something that I'm aware of all the time.
When you say taking responsibility for others, do you mean their happiness or just others in general?
I think really the focus for me right now for this week is their happiness. I think there's a context of, yes, being a father, being a husband, being a business owner and leader. In those roles, there's a natural sense of responsibility from that. As a leader, you take some responsibility of setting a vision, setting a course, but the experience that people have in their life, and is it translating to their happiness? And particularly for me in this, it's not just, are they happy, but making sure they're happy all the time.
How do you win at that game?
Well, one of the things I've learned recently in the last few days is you can't. And not only is that a game that you really can't win, but it really does not only rob yourself, but it really robs them of the space to have a lot of other emotion.
So well said. It's an easy trap to fall into, though, right?
Sure.
As men who care a great deal, who choose to shoulder the burden of responsibility, right? Because, hey, we can. Right?
Yeah.
The story we tell ourselves is we're strong enough. I can do it. I'll take it on. I'll give me some more. Right?
Male ego.
Yeah. And like you said, within that, not only is it easy to then rob them of the lessons they most need to learn, but we can easily fall into the trap of playing a game where the rules of the game are defined by the impossible task of being responsible for everybody else's happiness. And it really makes me wonder, in that scenario, is anyone actually really happy?
I think in the context of that, there are times and moments where things align. And I think we like to, or I have liked to take credit for those moments when everything's aligned. I just made everybody happy.
Yeah.
Might not have had much to do with me in that. And so I don't think in that context it keeps happiness away, but I think it comes up from time to time, and there's alignment, and you feel like, yeah.
So I'm curious then, for you, what happens when people aren't happy? Because in essence, you've kind of failed at the task at hand, right?
Exactly.
So what's that like in that moment for you?
Well, it's another thing to do. that becomes another task.
So when they're not happy, let's say they're upset or they're sad or whatever, you're saying it becomes another thing to fix that particular emotion.
Yeah. Another thing for me to do, another responsibility, another, not necessarily burden, but it can be at times.
Can I throw something in here as well?
Of course.
So the question I have is around assumption. Is there an assumption of what makes other people happy in this process?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely an underlying assumption. That I think in this process that comes up and cycles and goes through. And what I think gets projected into that is what would have made me happy in that scenario or that situation. So in cases like that, in those situations, not only am I robbing them of that emotion or someone robbing them of that emotion when you're making that action, but you're also not really even giving them the opportunity in many cases to find their own genuine happiness.
So where do you think this came from for you?
I think it's just an energy growing up of wanting a happy environment to be in as a family, wanting a happy environment to be in school, wanting just happiness in life, and that being really a priority over anything else. And there's an element of that was definitely a part of a religious upbringing. That was a constrained amount of space for being able to feel other emotions. It wasn't like everything needed to be perfect. And happiness meant perfection in that. So I think those were key undercurrents that led into that. And then when everything did look good, when the game was played well, that was rewarded and continuously rewarded in all kinds of ways. And in some cases, it was just the recognition from and affection from parents, the recognition and from teachers, school, church leaders, all of that. And then, geez, as you go through life, right, and you get into your career and you go through different careers, doing things that other people are satisfied with or that can make them happy or that can make them maybe satisfied with you for a short period of time, that's something that can get rewarded as well. It can be rewarded greatly, actually.
Sounds like a shade of the people pleaser.
Yeah.
It's like it's one shade of how people pleasing can show up, right?
Yeah. And there's also a sense, at least that I have felt and grown up with, that there's a service aspect to that. Yeah. You're serving them by helping them find happiness. And there's a nobility in that. There's a humility in that. As the servant leader will take this burden on to bring happiness to everybody and do what that takes. And it becomes a really slippery spice to work with.
And what toll did that take on you?
When you're getting up and you're focused so much on happiness for the people around you, from my experience, I lose sight of what makes me happy. And in that ways, I lose sight of my wants, my needs, my desires. And it can be really difficult to understand who I am when I'm in that space.
Yeah, one of the shades that came out for me, or used to come out for me, was that of the peacekeeper, which was another shade of people pleasing.
Sure.
And for me, that came about from my childhood because I never experienced healthy conflict. Like that was never modeled to me. Side topic, a good friend of mine years ago told me how him and his wife intentionally let their kids see them in conflict, which I thought was really insightful because they let them see what healthy conflict looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to protect the kids from it, they want to model what it looks like to go through healthy conflict and be in disagreement yet still connected, and then come back together afterwards. But anyway, coming back to me, it was never modeled to me. It was quite the opposite, right? So then what I took on in order to feel safe, essentially mine was a safety piece, which sounds like yours was more of an acceptance piece. Yeah. I took on that role of the peacekeeper to ensure that to try and make the environment as safe as possible for me and for others, which meant I would then shut down my voice and my feelings and my needs. And that played out for me for a long time, and it was hard, right?
Yeah.
So I totally get it, but it's another shade of the people pleaser in essence.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just want to share something with you. I'm sure we can both agree that in order to fix something, you need to know what's broken. And not only need to know what's broken, but a step-by-step methodology on how you can fix it. That's the easiest way to do it, right? Otherwise, you're going to be toiling with things. That's why I created a free training, a training that not only shows you how you got to where you are, where your relationship is missing that love, respect, admiration, and even intimacy that it used to have, to how you get it back. How do you retain that where your wife's looking at you the same way she used to look at you when she said, I do? You know, I don't know about you, but for me, when my wife looks at me like I'm her man, that I feel like I can conquer the world. And I want that for you. Simply go over to thepowerfulman.com/scales. That's thepowerfulman.com/scales. And I have a free video training for you. You can just click play and see if this resonates for you. Now back to the podcast.
It's subtle, isn't it? It just keeps on being part of the dynamic and the culture and the family. And we don't know anything different. That's just how it is. So it feels like it's normal until you come to an alpha rising and you look back and you go, holy heck, what have I been doing?
Exactly.
Right?
And I think one of the ways that it has shown up for me, instead of really being the peacekeeper, is more about being really the ringleader, being the one who's rallying everybody all the time. Let's go. And
Taking responsibility for their happiness.
yeah, exactly. And in that, well, if this was good, then if we do it that much more, then it's going to be that much better, and everybody will be that much happier.
It's exhausting, right? For you and the people around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if this kind of trip was a good trip, well, if we did this much more, then it would be that much better.
Yeah.
If going to a baseball game with my kids was great, well, if we had these much better seats and we went to this much better game or this much better stadium, then it would be that much better. If going out to dinner was a great thing, we had a good time and that was fun. Well, if we could go to this restaurant and if we could go to this thing, then it would be that much better. It was a cycle of, it was an enthusiasm, typhoon.
It's coming from a good place, right?
Sure.
Coming from
Absolutely.
a place of wanting good things.
What's really interesting, because I'm thinking about some of the guys listening to this who have been in the movement a few years that have been through a reset.
Yeah.
And obviously this is Tar 2, that one's Tar, as those guys know. I can imagine them listening to this and thinking, how come this stuff didn't come up at your reset? Surely you would have addressed it then. But as we were talking last night, I think for me, having seen so many guys go through the reset, either ones I've delivered or the ones I hear about and we talk about, right? The guys and their experiences. For the most part, the reset is the first time the men actually begin to reconnect to themselves.
Yeah.
And they really begin to open up. And it's the first time they actually have an outlet for the things that are going on for them at that time in their life. And frankly, usually the main pain points around the wife, around their past, be it bullies, sexual abuse, people that have wronged them, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it leads to a huge moment of empowerment that obviously we all know about. Whereas a rising, it seems like it's, and we spoke about this, once the guys are cracked open at the reset, it allows for the subtleties of what we do at the rising to really be that much more potent. I don't think somebody who hasn't been to a reset would be able to go through a rising because of the nuances within what we do with you guys there. You have to have done the pre-work, which essentially is a reset, in order to begin laying the foundation to be ready to then learn these deeper and more nuanced insights about yourself that enable you to just peel back another layer.
Yeah, I would add to that, Tim. I think that's spot on. I think the reset is a place that is like a cracking open for sure. For me, it was very much that way. And there's a lot at the reset that gave me the feeling of what was possible in my life. And that was in a very contained and structured and beautiful environment to have that. Go out in the real world, carrying that feeling and having that feeling and showing up in that way all day, every day for everyone is a different challenge. And as I struggled with that, that struggle helped me identify different areas where I could work through them a lot with our regular coaching program as part of the Brotherhood, as part of the Brotherhood retreats, but some of the other work that I've done, even outside of TPM. But then you get to that next point, that block that needs to be moved through again. And I think an analogy for me that kind of connected that this morning, last night we gave each other our new names, right? And the guys gave me the name of the redwood, the big strong tree, as do I.
Right.
And this morning, out under one of the trees at my campsite, I remembered a poem that I wrote the first day of the reset. It was a poem about a narcissistic little pine cone that sat up in the tree and thought he controlled everything that he could see. And at the end's the poem that the pine cone falls and is now I get to grow.
Oh, wow. How apt.
Yeah.
It's so apt.
I get chills on that. And I think,
redwood.
To think about the reset as really the time to get to see what's possible, then do the work for a period of time. For me, it was a couple of years. For some guys, it's been a year or so or whatever. Get ready to come to a rising. Work through the stuff you can work through the other activities of TPM, the other stuff that you're doing, and then when you're ready, you'll be called to it. You'll know it, and then you can really step to the next level, going through the rising. Yeah,
I loved Chris's response at the dinner table last night when I said, "Hey guys, I'm curious as you go back and guys in the movement ask you, hey, what was tattoo like, And Chris said, for a guy that was considering going to the rising, I think I'd say to them, what makes you think you're ready?
Yeah.
And Chris was wanting the guys to prove it to them that they are ready for the rising. And I thought that was a really cool way of looking at it.
Yeah. It's the right way to look at it. It's almost like an application process, or maybe. And it's one thing that, I know it's not all guys can do this, but I would almost consider it prerequisite to go to a Brotherhood event.
Wow.
There's such great stuff that happens in those events. There's such a community and a bond that's opens it up wider and has opened me up wider, and the guys that go to those up wider than at the rising. At the reset. It does open you up wider because there's so much more brotherhood that comes into that. I think that's a key piece. If I were giving advice to the guys, which I am, I guess, right now, giving you guys advice, go to a Brotherhood event get to those are key, and a part of that growth process to prepare you to get you to a rising.
The work begins for you now, my good friend.
Yes.
As we leave the rising.
Isn't that the irony?
It
Right?
is the
At
irony,
the end of the activation method, the work begins. At the end of the alpha reset, the work begins.
Yeah.
At the end of the rising.
I think of each of these as setting a new plateau,
Yeah.
setting a new place to work from,
The end is the
baseline.
beginning.
new baseline. It's like scaffolding, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way it just sets. But yeah,
Yeah, so true though. But the amateur mindset would be to come to a reset or a rising or whatever it may be and be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I made it through. I'm
I've
done.
arrived.
It's like,
did you even pay attention while you were here?
yeah.
Have you even been paying attention if that's your mindset? No.
It's when the work begins, because the point of these processes is to reveal the things to you about yourself that you otherwise weren't aware of. And yeah, there's opportunities for you to work through some of that stuff as well. But even within working through it, it just further reveals the path forward.
Sure.
Right? At which point, there's an integration period,
Yeah.
right? Where you really get to embed and live by the new insights and lessons. And that's where the real lasting change occurs,
Yeah.
right? Because it's in that process where you've been supported and you've been held accountable and trained and coached and all that fun stuff that you really start to shift your habits and your behavior and your identity. And before you know it, over however many months, you're a different person,
Yeah.
living a different life.
Yeah.
With a different relationship, both to yourself and to your wife and to your kids and to life in general.
Yeah.
There's deeper levels of connection, deeper levels of meaning, more purpose. It just, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for the journey ahead. It's because I know you're going to do the work. That's one thing I love about you. You're very consistent. And you're going to ask for help.
Yes, I am.
That was the other piece that came up, right?
That's kind of maybe why I'm here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, any final words, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, something that's been on my mind. As a young man, one of the things that I used to do to work on myself was I had these cards, which I would draw a card every day. And they had these incredible little bits of wisdom. And my favorite was the only adult I'm responsible for is myself. And just to remember that, it's been for me a really huge lesson to allow my children to struggle. My daughter's just set up a business and I can help her. I can rescue her. I can set up stuff for her and I'm allowing her to struggle. And I've got resources and she's not making her budget and she's under pressure and stress and she's got a baby. And so it's painful for me. And yet I know it's really good for her because it's going to grow her roots stronger for her tree.
Nice.
So well said.
That's well said.
So easy to try and swoop in and rescue people we love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as we like to say, the moment of insight, take massive action. We'll see you next time on the TPM show.